and the dude's like holding onto his seat. So we're gonna be talking about the time that I failed my driver's test. So basically, my parents were like, Hailie, when are you taking your driver's test? And I was like, I don't know. They scheduled it and we went in the next day and we showed up and they were like, okay, you're 2 hours early. So we went out for a little bit and we decided to go get food. So we got food and we got back to the place where I took my test and they were like, okay, just fill out these papers. You can take your test. And I was like, sweet. So I filled out the papers and everything. And the guy was like, okay, let's go out to the car. So in driver's ed, they told us to look behind the car before you drive it to make sure that there's nothing there. So I went to go do that and the guy like looked at me funny and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I thought I was supposed to do that. And he was like, okay, go sit in the driving seat. So I went to go sit in the driving seat and my little anxiety self was like holding onto the wheel and I was shaking. He was like, okay, now what do you do first? And I was like, start the car. So I started the car. I adjusted my seats and everything and the mirrors. He was like, okay, now shut your door. And I was like, okay. So I shut my door and he's like, okay, now open the window. So I opened the window and he told me to stick my arm out and do the right, left, stop thing where it's basically like a turn signal if your turn signals aren't working for whatever reason. So he got into the passenger side of the car and he was like, okay, now pull out of the parking lot. So basically, I was in a really tight parking spot. The cars on both sides of me, like the cars next to me were really close to the line, if not overlapping it. And the space behind me was very tiny space. 5 feet behind me, there was a curb. And he was like, okay, now pull out of the parking spot. So I did. And I was definitely terrified that I was going to hit the cars next to me. And I didn't, but I think he was definitely scared that I was going to because he was holding his foot like over the brake and he looked like he was about to step on it real quick. I pull out of the parking spot and everything and he was like, okay, now pull out of the parking lot. So I pulled out of the parking lot and he was like, okay, get in the left turn lane. So I got in the left turn lane and I turned left and everything. And I guess I didn't like swing out far enough. And then we enter this neighborhood and let me tell you, I didn't do so great at backing around a corner. So he told me to go onto like this hill and pull over to the side of the road and then back around the corner. But I was backing around this corner and somehow I ended up in the other side of the road. But we start driving and then we approach this roundabout. And keep in mind, you're supposed to yield to other vehicles, but there was a huge freaking bus coming. And my mindset was, maybe if I speed up, I can make it. I'm sitting in the car and I'm like, should I do it? Should I do it? And it's coming, it's approaching more. And so I press on the gas and I speed out and the dude's like holding onto his seat and like he didn't say anything. But I pulled out and then he was like, okay, now enter the left lane. And he was like, you did see that bus coming, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, that's awkward. But he told me to get to the left lane. So I was in the left lane and the bus was that same freaking bus. And I hate it so much. It irks me. That bus irks me so much. So the bus was in the right lane and it's like, it's coming up and it's coming up. And he was like, okay, now merge into the right lane. Like, so I slowed down so that the bus would like go past me so I can merge into the right lane. He was like, why are you slowing down? You're not matching speed. And I was like, I don't want to hit the bus. He was like, you need to speed up. So I'm speeding at this point and I had to merge into the right lane. And at this point, I had a pretty good feeling that I had already failed. And I was approaching this stoplight that would turn right. And I got into the turn lane to turn right and everything. It had turned red. So the light was very red. He was like, okay, go back to the driving school. So I got into the turn lane and I turned right on red because I thought you could. And you can if you stop completely. But here's how it went. I was approaching the stoplight and I slowed down and then like it slowed down to where it was almost stopping. Like, it was super close to almost stopping, and it didn't set back, so he didn't count it as a stop. Anyway, I turned right, and he was like, go park the car. So I went to go park the car. I already had tears rolling down my face because I already knew that I failed. And I went into the parking spot. I pulled in. He was like, okay, you knew that the light was red. Why didn't you stop? And he was getting angry with me. Honestly, I don't blame him. But I already had tears rolling down my face, and he had told me, maybe you should have practiced more. That was really a waste of $40. And I was like, thanks. So that was that. I went home. It was no big deal. I was really upset about it though. And then I eventually took the test again and I passed. I've definitely gotten a lot better since then, but that was not a happy day. So yeah, that's the story of the time that I failed my driver's test. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because we love that. Okay? Yeah.